Welcome to my channel, Bookish English 2. What if the reason you still cannot speak English is not your level, but what you do in the first 10 minutes after waking up? Most learners miss this simple secret every day, and that is why they stay stuck for years. If you watch till the end, you will discover a real routine that can finally unlock your voice. If you miss this, you may miss the breakthrough you have been waiting for. Chapter 1. The Silent Morning. You wake up, and for a few seconds everything feels calm, almost peaceful, as if the world has given you a soft moment to breathe before the day begins. But then something slowly starts to rise inside you. Something that is not loud but still powerful. Something that you have felt many times before but never really faced. And that is the quiet pressure of not being able to express yourself in English the way you want. You sit up, maybe you check your phone, maybe you look around your room. And even though nothing has gone wrong yet, there is already a feeling that today will be just like yesterday, where you understand more than you can say, where you think of sentences but do not speak them, where you stay silent even when you want to try, and that silence begins to feel heavier than words. This is the silent morning that so many English learners live every single day. And the truth is that nobody talks about this moment because everyone focuses on grammar, vocabulary, and lessons. But very few people talk about what actually happens in your mind when you wake up and face your own voice. You are not lazy and you are not weak because you have already tried many times. You have watched videos, you have learned words, and you have even practiced in your mind. But when it comes to speaking, something stops you. Something makes you wait, and that waiting slowly turns into a habit. The strange thing is that silence feels safe at first, because when you do not speak, you cannot make mistakes, you cannot feel embarrassed, and you cannot feel judged, even if nobody is there. But this safety is not real, because it keeps you stuck in the same place. You might tell yourself that you will start later, maybe after you learn more words, maybe after your grammar becomes perfect, maybe after you feel ready, but that moment never comes. Because confidence does not come before speaking, it comes after speaking. And this is where most learners get trapped without even realizing it. I want you to understand something very clearly, and I want you to feel it, not just hear it, because this can change the way you see your English journey from this moment. The problem is not your level, and the problem is not your intelligence, and the problem is not even your memory, because the real problem is that your brain has not been trained to use English in real-life moments, especially in those first moments of the day when everything is quiet and your thoughts are clear. You have learned English as a subject, but you have not yet trained your mind to live in English, and that is why speaking feels difficult. Think about this carefully, because it is very important. When you wake up, your brain is in a very special state. It is fresh, it is not yet full of stress, and it is not yet distracted by the world, which means this is the best time to shape your thinking. But most people waste this moment by staying silent or by immediately going back to their native language. This is not because they do not care, but because they do not know what to do. And when you do not know what to do, you do nothing, and that nothing becomes your routine. Now imagine a different kind of morning. Not a perfect one, but a real one where you still feel a little nervous, but you decide to do something small, something simple, something that feels almost too easy to matter, yet it slowly begins to change everything. Imagine waking up and instead of staying silent, you speak one small sentence, even if it is not perfect, even if it is slow, even if it feels strange at first, because that one sentence is not just a sentence, it is a signal to your brain that today will be different. You might be thinking that one sentence cannot change your life, and that is a normal thought, because your mind is used to big expectations and quick results. But real change does not work like that. Real change begins with small actions that you repeat again and again until they become part of who you are. The first sentence you speak in the morning is like opening a door that has been closed for a long time, and once you open it, even a little, light begins to come in. Let me be very honest with you because I want you to trust this process. At the beginning, it will feel uncomfortable, and you may feel that your words are not good enough, and you may even want to stop. But that feeling is not failure. It is progress, because it means you are doing something new. Your brain is learning, your voice is waking up, and your fear is slowly losing its power over you. You do not need to fight fear. You only need to move through it, one small step at a time. There is also something very important that you must remember, and this can change your confidence immediately. Nobody is watching you in this moment, nobody is judging you, and nobody is expecting perfection from you, because this is your private space, your safe environment where you can explore your voice without pressure. You are not performing, you are practicing, and there is a big difference between the two. When you understand this, your fear becomes smaller, and your courage becomes stronger. I know that deep inside you want to speak English with confidence, you want to express your thoughts clearly, and you want to feel proud of your voice. But you may also feel that this is far away from you, that it is something other people can do but not you. I want to challenge that belief right now because it is not true. You are not behind, and you are not late, because every fluent speaker you see today was once exactly where you are now, silent, unsure, and afraid to speak. The difference is not talent and it is not luck, because the real difference is that at some point, they stopped waiting and they started doing, even in small ways, even in imperfect ways, and that decision changed everything for them. You can make that same decision today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today, starting with your next morning. This chapter is not just about understanding your silence, it is about breaking it gently, without pressure, without fear, and without unrealistic expectations. You do not need to become perfect overnight, and you do not need to speak like a native speaker, because your goal is much simpler and much more powerful. Your goal is to start, to speak, and to continue, even when it feels uncomfortable. As you move forward in this video, you will not just learn what to do, you will experience a shift in how you see your mornings, your voice, and your ability to speak English. You will realize that fluency is not a big jump. It is a series of small steps, and the first step always begins in silence, right where you are now. So the next time you wake up, do not run away from that quiet moment, and do not fill it with fear or doubt. Instead, see it as an opportunity, a fresh start, a chance to build something new, something that belongs to you. Your voice is there, waiting for you, and all it needs is one simple beginning. Now tell me, are you ready to take that first step? Chapter 2. The first words. The moment you open your eyes in the morning, there is a small window of time that most people never notice. Yet it quietly holds the power to change the way you think, speak, and experience your entire day. Your mind is not crowded yet, your thoughts are still soft, and the world has not started pulling your attention in different directions. Which means you are standing at a very important starting point. What you do in this moment may look small, but it begins to shape how your brain will behave for the rest of the day. And if you use it wisely, it can slowly turn your silence into speech. Most learners lose this moment without even realizing it. They wake up, they look around, and then their mind immediately goes back to their native language, because that is what feels comfortable, natural, and automatic. This is not a mistake. It is simply a habit, but it is a habit that keeps the brain from switching into English. The brain always follows what it knows best, and if you never give it a reason to change, it will stay in the same pattern every single day. That is why many learners feel stuck even after months or years of learning, because their knowledge grows, but their speaking does not move with it. Now imagine something different, something very simple but very powerful. Instead of staying silent or thinking in your native language, you decide to speak one sentence in English. Not a long sentence, not a perfect sentence, just one small sentence that comes from your real situation. You may say something like, I feel tired, but I will try. Or, today I want to speak better. Or, I am awake and I am ready. These sentences are not special because of their grammar. They are special because they activate your brain in English. That activation is the key, because once the brain starts moving in English, it becomes easier to continue. At first, your voice may feel slow, and your words may not come easily, and that is completely normal. Your brain is like a muscle that has not been used in this way before, so it needs time to wake up and respond. If you expect yourself to speak fast or perfectly in this moment, you will create pressure, and pressure will bring fear back into your mind. Instead, you must give yourself permission to be slow, to be imperfect, and to simply begin. This permission is very important because it removes the fear of doing something wrong and replaces it with the freedom to explore. There is something very interesting that happens when you speak your first sentence in the morning. Even if it is small, it sends a message to your brain that today will be different. It breaks the pattern of silence and creates a new direction. The second sentence becomes slightly easier, and the third sentence begins to feel more natural, and before you realize it, you are no longer completely silent. You are speaking, even if it is simple, even if it is not perfect, but it is real, and that reality is what builds confidence over time. You do not need to search for complicated ideas or difficult vocabulary in this moment, because your life already gives you everything you need. You can describe how you feel, what you see, what you plan to do, or what you want to improve. You can say, I am sitting on my bed, or I will drink water, or I want to speak more today. These sentences may look very basic, but they are extremely powerful because they connect English to your real life. When English becomes part of your real life, it stops feeling like a subject and starts feeling like a tool. Many learners believe that they need to learn more before they start speaking, but the truth is that speaking itself is a way of learning. When you speak, you discover your limits. And when you discover your limits, you know what to improve. If you only study without speaking, your knowledge stays inside your mind, and it never becomes a skill. Speaking turns knowledge into action, and action is what creates real progress. There may be a voice inside you that says your sentences are too simple, or that you sound childish, or that this is not enough. But you must understand that simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is the foundation of fluency. Every fluent speaker uses simple sentences every day, and they build longer sentences by connecting simple ideas. If you become strong in simple speaking, you create a base that will support your future growth. Without that base, everything feels difficult and unstable. Another important thing to remember is that this is your private moment. You are not performing for anyone. You are not trying to impress anyone, and you are not being judged. This is your space to practice, to make mistakes, and to grow without pressure. When you remove the fear of judgment, your mind becomes more relaxed. And when your mind is relaxed, your speaking becomes more natural. Confidence does not come from forcing yourself. It comes from allowing yourself to learn in a calm and supportive way. As you continue this small habit every morning, something begins to change inside you. You may not notice it immediately, but your brain starts to recognize English as part of your daily life. The fear that once stopped you begins to lose its strength, and your voice starts to feel more familiar. You are no longer waiting for the perfect moment to speak, because you are creating your own moment every day. There is no need to rush this process, and there is no need to compare yourself with others. Your journey is yours, and your progress will come from your consistency, not from speed. If you speak even a few sentences every morning, you are already doing something that many learners never do, and that gives you a powerful advantage. Step by step, day by day, your voice becomes stronger, your mind becomes faster, and your confidence becomes real. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, do not let the silence take control again. Use that quiet moment as your starting point, and let your first words come out, even if they are slow, even if they are simple, and even if they feel a little uncomfortable. Those words are not just sounds, they are the beginning of a new habit, a new mindset, and a new version of you who is not afraid to speak. Now tell me, will you speak your first sentence tomorrow morning, or will you stay silent one more time? Chapter 3. Mirror Practice. There is a moment that many learners avoid, not because it is difficult, but because it feels uncomfortable in a very personal way. It is the moment when you stand in front of a mirror, look into your own eyes, and realize that you are about to speak to yourself. At first, this idea may feel strange, almost unnatural, because you are not used to seeing yourself as someone you can talk to in English. However, this simple act holds a deep power, because it turns practice into something real, something visible, and something that feels like a true conversation rather than just words in your mind. When you look into the mirror, you are not just seeing your face. You are creating a connection between your thoughts, your voice, and your presence. This connection is very important because many learners can think in English, and some can even write in English. But when it comes to speaking, they feel disconnected. Their voice does not feel natural, their expressions feel forced, and their confidence disappears. The mirror changes this experience because it brings your attention back to yourself, and it makes your speaking feel alive. At the beginning, you may feel shy, and you may even laugh at yourself, and that is completely normal. Your mind is not used to this kind of practice, so it reacts with discomfort. Instead of stopping, you need to understand that this feeling is not a signal to quit. It is a signal that you are stepping into something new. Growth always feels a little strange in the beginning, because it takes you out of your usual patterns and introduces you to a new way of thinking and acting. Start with something very simple, something that does not require effort or stress. Look at yourself and say what you see or how you feel. You can say, "I look tired, but I am trying," or "I feel okay today," or "I will do my best." These sentences may sound basic, but they carry a deeper purpose. You are not just speaking, you are building a relationship with your own voice. You are learning to accept how you sound, how you express yourself, and how you communicate in English. As you continue, you can slowly expand your sentences and add more meaning. You can talk about your plans, your thoughts, or even your struggles. You can say, "I want to improve my English because I want to feel confident," or "Sometimes I feel afraid to speak, but I will not stop." When you speak like this, you are not only practicing language, you are expressing your real emotions. And this makes your speaking more powerful and more natural. There is something very special about speaking while looking into your own eyes. It creates a sense of honesty that is hard to find in other types of practice. You cannot hide, and you cannot pretend, because you are facing yourself directly. This honesty helps you become more comfortable with who you are as a learner. Instead of feeling embarrassed about your mistakes, you begin to accept them as part of your journey. This acceptance reduces fear and builds confidence in a quiet but strong way. You can also turn this practice into a simple conversation with yourself. Ask a question, pause for a moment, and then answer it. For example, you can ask, "What will I do today?" And then answer, "Today I will practice speaking and try to improve. This may feel like a small exercise, but it trains your brain to think and respond in English without translation. It creates a flow, and that flow is what you need for real conversations in the future. Many learners wait for a partner to practice speaking, but they forget that the best partner is always available, and that partner is themselves. When you learn to speak alone, you remove the dependency on others, and you give yourself the freedom to practice anytime, anywhere. This freedom is very powerful, because it means your progress is always in your control. You do not need to wait, and you do not need to feel limited by your environment. Another important benefit of mirror practice is that it helps you become aware of your expressions, your tone, and your body language. Communication is not only about words, it is also about how you say them. When you see yourself speaking, you can notice small details, like your confidence, your eye contact, and your energy. Over time, these details improve naturally, and your overall communication becomes stronger and more effective. It is important to remember that this practice is not about perfection. You will make mistakes, you will forget words, and you may even stop in the middle of a sentence, but none of these things matter. What matters is that you continue. Every time you speak, you are building a habit, and every habit you build is shaping your future. If you focus too much on mistakes, you will slow yourself down. But if you focus on expression, you will move forward with confidence. There may be days when you do not feel motivated, and you may think that skipping one day will not make a difference. However, consistency is what turns small actions into big results. Even if you speak for just a few minutes, you are keeping the habit alive, and that is what matters most. Progress is not about doing everything perfectly. It is about showing up again and again, even when it feels difficult. As you continue this practice, you will start to notice a change in how you feel about speaking. Your voice will become more familiar, your thoughts will come faster, and your fear will become smaller. You will no longer feel like you are trying to speak English, because speaking will start to feel like a natural part of your day. This transformation does not happen in one moment, but it happens through many small moments that you create with your effort and your patience. Look at yourself in the mirror not as someone who is struggling, but as someone who is growing. Every word you speak is a step forward, and every step brings you closer to the confidence you want. You are not practicing alone. You are building a version of yourself that is stronger, more expressive, and more confident in English. So the next time you stand in front of a mirror, do not turn away, and do not stay silent. Look into your eyes, speak your truth, and allow your voice to come out, even if it is not perfect, because that is how real progress begins. Now tell me, when you look at yourself tomorrow, will you stay quiet, or will you finally start speaking to the person who matters the most? Chapter 4. Real-life sentences. There is a hidden reason why many learners feel that English is difficult, even after learning many words and rules, and that reason is not a lack of intelligence or effort, but a lack of connection between the language and real life. You may have studied sentences from books, you may have repeated phrases from videos, and you may even understand many things when you listen. But when it is time to speak, your mind becomes empty or confused, and that happens because the sentences you learned do not belong to your life. They exist in your memory, but they do not exist in your daily experience. And without that connection, speaking feels forced and unnatural. Now imagine a different approach, one that does not ask you to learn more, but asks you to use what you already have in a smarter way. Instead of trying to remember complicated sentences that you may never use, you begin to build sentences from your own life, from your own routine, from your own thoughts and actions. This changes everything, because now English is not something outside of you. It becomes something that grows from within you. When you speak about your real life, your brain does not need to search too hard because the ideas are already there, and this makes speaking easier, smoother, and more natural. Think about your morning, because it is full of simple actions that you already understand. You wake up, you sit, you walk, you drink water, you check your phone, and you prepare for your day. Each of these actions can become a sentence, and each sentence can become part of your daily speaking practice. You can say, I am getting out of bed, or I am walking to the kitchen, or I am drinking water because I feel thirsty. These sentences are not difficult, but they are powerful, because they describe your real actions in real time, and this creates a strong connection between language and experience. Many learners ignore simple sentences because they believe they are too basic, but this belief slows down their progress. Simplicity is not a limitation, it is a foundation. When you build strong, simple sentences, you create a base that can grow naturally into more complex expressions. For example, you can start with I am eating breakfast, and then expand it into I am eating breakfast, and I feel relaxed. And then continue with I am eating breakfast and I feel relaxed, because I slept well. This is how real fluency develops, not by memorizing long sentences, but by growing small sentences, step by step. There is also a powerful emotional benefit in using real-life sentences. When you speak about your own life, your words carry meaning, and that meaning creates confidence. You are not just repeating something you heard, you are expressing something that belongs to you. This makes your voice feel more authentic, and when your voice feels authentic, your fear begins to disappear. Fear often comes from uncertainty, but when you speak about what you know and what you are doing, that uncertainty becomes smaller. You may notice that at the beginning, your sentences are simple and repetitive, and that is completely fine. Repetition is not boring when it is connected to your life, because every moment is slightly different. One day you may say, I am tired today, and another day you may say, I feel fresh and ready. And even though the structure is similar, the meaning changes. This variation keeps your practice alive and prevents it from feeling mechanical. Another important aspect of this approach is that it trains your brain to think in English naturally. When you describe your actions in real time, you are not translating from your native language. You are directly connecting your experience to English words. This direct connection is what fluent speakers use, and it is what allows them to speak quickly without overthinking. By practicing real-life sentences, you are slowly building the same ability in your own mind. It is also important to give yourself permission to make small changes and experiments with your sentences. You can add new words, change the order, or express the same idea in a slightly different way. For example, instead of saying, I am walking, you can say, I am slowly walking, or I am walking to my room. These small changes help you become flexible in your speaking, and flexibility is a key part of fluency. When your brain learns that it can play with language, it becomes more confident and more creative. Some learners feel that they need a perfect environment to practice English, but your environment is already enough. Your room, your kitchen, your daily routine, and your thoughts are all rich with opportunities to speak. You do not need special materials, and you do not need complicated lessons, because your life itself is your classroom. When you realize this, learning becomes easier and more enjoyable, because it fits naturally into your day instead of feeling like a separate task. There may be moments when you feel that your sentences are not improving, or that you are repeating the same ideas again and again. But progress is not always visible in big changes. Sometimes it is hidden in small improvements, like speaking a little faster, feeling a little less nervous, or finding words a little more easily. These small changes are signs that your brain is adapting, and if you continue, they will grow into something much bigger. Consistency is very important in this process. Speaking real-life sentences once or twice will not create a big change, but doing it every day will slowly transform your ability. Each day adds a small layer of confidence, and over time, these layers become strong enough to support more advanced speaking. You are building something step by step, and every step matters. As you continue this practice, you will start to notice that English feels closer to you. It is no longer something you only use in study time. It becomes part of your thinking, your actions, and your daily experience. This shift is very powerful because it changes your identity from someone who learns English to someone who uses English. That identity is what leads to real fluency. So the next time you move through your day, do not just think about what you are doing. Speak it, express it, and turn it into English. Let your life guide your sentences, and let your sentences guide your growth. You already have everything you need, and all it takes is a simple decision to use it. Now tell me, when you go through your routine tomorrow, will you stay in silence, or will you start turning your life into English? Chapter 5. Fear Breaker. There is a moment that every English learner knows very well, even if they never talk about it. And that is the moment when a sentence forms in your mind but never reaches your lips. You feel it clearly, because the idea is there. The words are almost there, and yet something invisible stops you. Something that does not shout, but still controls your action. That invisible force is fear, and it is not your enemy, even though it feels like one. Because it is simply a reaction from your brain trying to protect you from discomfort, from mistakes, and from situations that feel unfamiliar. Fear in speaking English does not come from the language itself. It comes from what you think will happen if you speak. You may imagine that you will make mistakes, that people will not understand you, or that you will feel embarrassed. And even if these things are not real in that moment, your brain reacts as if they are real. It tries to keep you safe by stopping you, and over time, this stopping becomes a habit. The more you stay silent, the stronger the fear becomes. And the stronger the fear becomes, the harder it feels to speak. However, there is something very important that you must understand if you truly want to break this pattern. Fear does not disappear by thinking, and it does not disappear by waiting. Fear disappears through action, but not big, overwhelming action that creates more pressure, rather small, controlled action that teaches your brain a new truth. That truth is simple but powerful, and it is this: speaking is not dangerous. When your brain learns this through experience, not just through words, it begins to relax, and that relaxation opens the door to confidence. Many learners make the mistake of trying to remove fear before they start speaking, and this creates a cycle that keeps them stuck. They wait to feel ready, they wait to feel confident, and they wait for the perfect moment. But that moment never comes because confidence is not the starting point, it is the result. You do not speak because you are confident. You become confident because you speak. This shift in thinking is not easy at first, but once you accept it, your entire approach changes. It is also important to change the way you see mistakes, because mistakes are often the biggest source of fear. You may believe that mistakes show weakness or lack of ability, but in reality, they are signs that you are learning and growing. Every mistake gives you information. It shows you what you need to improve, and it helps your brain adjust. If you avoid mistakes, you avoid learning. And if you avoid learning, you stay in the same place. When you begin to see mistakes as part of progress, they lose their power to scare you. There is a simple way to train your brain to become less afraid, and it does not require anything complicated. You start by speaking in situations where there is no pressure, where you are alone, and where you feel safe. You say simple sentences, you repeat them, and you allow yourself to make mistakes without stopping. This creates a positive experience, and your brain begins to associate speaking with safety instead of danger. Over time, this new association becomes stronger, and your fear becomes weaker. As you continue this process, you can slowly increase the challenge. You can speak a little more, you can try new sentences, and you can express more complex ideas. But you do this step by step, not all at once. This gradual approach is very important because it builds confidence in a stable way. If you try to do too much too quickly, you may feel overwhelmed, and that can bring fear back again. Progress is not about speed. It is about consistency and control. Another powerful shift happens when you focus on communication instead of perfection. When your goal is to communicate your idea, even in a simple way, you reduce pressure on yourself. You allow your words to come out naturally, even if they are not perfect, and you focus on being understood rather than being perfect. This mindset makes speaking feel lighter and more natural, and it helps you move forward without stopping every time you feel unsure. There is also an emotional side to fear that many learners ignore. Sometimes fear is not just about language, it is about how you see yourself. You may feel that you are not good enough, or that you are behind others, and these thoughts create a deeper level of hesitation. It is important to challenge these thoughts because they are not facts. They are just beliefs that have grown over time. You are not behind, you are on your own path, and your progress depends on what you do now, not on what you did before. When you start to act despite fear, something very interesting begins to happen. The fear does not disappear immediately, but it becomes smaller, and your courage becomes stronger. Each time you speak, you prove to yourself that you can do it, and this proof builds confidence in a real and lasting way. Confidence is not a feeling that appears suddenly. It is a result of repeated actions that show you your own ability. There may still be moments when you feel nervous, and that is completely normal. Even confident speakers feel nervous sometimes, but they do not let that feeling stop them. They accept it, they move through it, and they continue to speak. You can do the same, because fear is not a wall, it is just a feeling, and feelings change when you take action. As you continue this journey, you will begin to notice that the situations that once felt difficult start to feel easier. Your mind becomes calmer, your words come more naturally, and your voice feels more stable. You may even start to enjoy speaking, because it no longer feels like a test. It feels like a way to express yourself. This transformation does not happen overnight, but it happens steadily when you stay consistent. Remember that breaking fear is not about becoming fearless. It is about becoming stronger than your fear. It is about choosing to speak even when you feel unsure, and trusting that each step you take is moving you forward. You are not trying to be perfect. You are trying to grow, and growth always involves a little discomfort. So when you feel that hesitation again, when your mind tells you to stay silent, pause for a moment and remind yourself that this is your chance to change. Speak one sentence, even if it is simple, even if it is not perfect, and let that sentence be your victory. Each small victory builds a stronger version of you, one that is not controlled by fear, but guided by action. Now tell me, when fear tries to stop you again, will you listen to it, or will you speak anyway and take control of your progress? Chapter 6. Daily repetition. Consistency has a quiet power that most people underestimate, and because it does not create instant excitement or dramatic change, many learners ignore it and search for faster, more impressive methods that promise quick results. However, real fluency is not built through sudden effort or short bursts of motivation. It is built through small actions that are repeated again and again until they become natural, automatic, and deeply connected to your thinking process. This is where daily repetition becomes your strongest advantage, because it transforms simple practice into lasting ability. When you repeat something every day, your brain begins to recognize it as important. It starts to create stronger connections, and those connections make the process easier each time you do it. At the beginning, speaking English may feel slow, and you may need to think before every sentence, but with repetition, that effort decreases. Your brain learns patterns, your tongue becomes more comfortable with sounds, and your thoughts begin to flow more smoothly. This is not magic, it is simply how learning works. And once you understand this, you stop chasing perfection and start building consistency. Many learners feel motivated for a short time, and they practice a lot in one day, but then they stop for several days, and this breaks the learning process. When you stop, your brain does not get enough repetition to build strong connections, and you feel like you are starting again every time. This creates frustration because it feels like no matter how much you try, progress is slow. The solution is not to do more in one day, but to do something every day, even if it is small, because small, consistent actions are more powerful than large, irregular efforts. It is important to understand that repetition does not mean doing the same thing in a boring way. Repetition becomes powerful when it is slightly different each time, when you use the same structure but change the meaning, the feeling, or the situation. For example, you may repeat a simple sentence like, "I am ready," but one day you say it with excitement, another day you say it with determination, and another day you expand it into, "I am ready to improve my English today." This kind of repetition keeps your practice alive, and it helps your brain stay engaged while still building strong patterns. Another benefit of daily repetition is that it removes the pressure of big expectations. When you know that you will practice again tomorrow, you do not feel the need to do everything perfectly today. You allow yourself to make mistakes, to be slow, and to learn at your own pace. This relaxed approach creates a better learning environment because your mind is not filled with stress or fear. When your mind is calm, it learns faster, and your speaking becomes more natural. There is also a psychological shift that happens when you repeat a habit every day. At first, it feels like something you have to do, something that requires effort and discipline. But after some time, it begins to feel like part of your routine, something that belongs to your day. You no longer question whether you will practice or not, because it becomes automatic. This is the moment when real change starts to happen, because your progress is no longer dependent on motivation, it is supported by habit. You may not see big results in the first few days, and this is where many learners lose patience. They expect immediate improvement, and when they do not see it, they feel discouraged. It is important to trust the process, because repetition works quietly. It builds strength beneath the surface, and one day, you suddenly notice that speaking feels easier, that your sentences come faster, and that your fear is smaller. This is the result of all the small efforts you made, even when you did not feel progress. Another powerful aspect of repetition is that it builds confidence in a natural way. Confidence is not something you can create by thinking positively alone. It comes from experience. When you repeat speaking every day, you gain experience, and that experience proves to your brain that you can do it. Each repetition becomes evidence, and that evidence builds belief in yourself. This belief is much stronger than temporary motivation because it is based on real action. It is also helpful to keep your repetition connected to your daily life because this makes it more meaningful and easier to maintain. You can repeat your morning sentences, your mirror practice, and your real-life descriptions, and over time, these become part of how you think and speak. You are not adding something extra to your day, you are simply changing the way you experience your day. This makes your practice sustainable, and sustainability is what leads to long-term success. There may be days when you feel tired, when you feel unmotivated, or when you feel that your practice is not good enough. These days are part of the journey, and they do not mean that you are failing. In fact, continuing on these days is what makes your habit strong. When you practice even a little, even when you do not feel like it, you are proving to yourself that you are committed. This commitment is what separates those who improve from those who stay in the same place. It is also important to celebrate your consistency, not just your results. If you practice today, you succeeded because you took a step forward. If you practice again tomorrow, you are building momentum, and momentum creates progress. When you focus on showing up, instead of being perfect, you remove unnecessary pressure and create a positive cycle of growth. As repetition becomes part of your life, you will notice that English no longer feels like something you need to force. It becomes a natural part of your thinking, and your speaking begins to flow without too much effort. This is the result of all the small repetitions that you may have once thought were not enough. In reality, they were building something strong, something lasting, and something that now supports your confidence. So when you think about your English journey, do not focus on doing something big once. Focus on doing something small every day. Let repetition work for you, let it shape your mind, and let it guide your progress in a steady and reliable way. You are not rushing, you are building, and what you build with consistency will stay with you. Now tell me, will you rely on motivation that comes and goes, or will you choose repetition that quietly transforms your ability every single day? Chapter 7. Small wins. Progress in English does not always arrive in big, obvious moments. And because of that, many learners begin to feel that they are not improving at all, even when they are moving forward every single day. This misunderstanding quietly destroys motivation, because when you cannot see your growth, it feels like your effort is not working. And when effort feels useless, the desire to continue slowly disappears. However, the truth is very different from what you feel, because real progress often hides in small changes that are easy to ignore, but powerful enough to transform your ability over time. When you begin your journey, you may expect that one day you will suddenly speak fluently, that words will flow without effort, and that confidence will appear all at once. This expectation creates pressure, and it also creates disappointment, because learning does not work in sudden jumps. It works in small steps that build on each other. If you only look for big results, you will miss the small wins that are happening every day. And those small wins are the foundation of everything you are trying to achieve. A small win may look simple, but it carries real meaning. It may be the moment when you remember a word without thinking too long, or when you speak a sentence a little faster than yesterday, or when you feel slightly less nervous while expressing your thoughts. These moments are easy to overlook because they do not feel dramatic, but they are clear signs that your brain is adapting and improving. Each small improvement shows that your effort is working, even if the change feels slow. It is important to train your mind to notice these small wins, because what you focus on grows stronger. If you focus only on your mistakes, your mind will believe that you are not improving, and this belief will reduce your confidence. On the other hand, if you focus on your progress, even when it is small, your mind will begin to feel encouraged, and this encouragement will push you to continue. The way you see your journey matters as much as the effort you put into it. There is also a powerful emotional effect when you recognize your small wins. When you say to yourself that you did something better today, even if it is a small thing, you create a positive connection with your learning process. Learning no longer feels like a struggle, it begins to feel like growth. This shift in feeling is very important because when you enjoy the process, you are more likely to stay consistent, and consistency is what creates long-term success. You do not need to wait for someone else to tell you that you are improving, because you can see it for yourself if you pay attention. You can notice how your sentences become clearer, how your hesitation becomes shorter, and how your confidence becomes stronger, even if it is only by a small amount. These changes may not be visible to others immediately, but they are very real, and they are building something inside you that will become visible with time. Another important aspect of small wins is that they help you stay patient. When you understand that progress happens step by step, you stop expecting instant results, and you begin to trust the process. Patience does not mean waiting without action. It means continuing your effort while understanding that results will come gradually. This mindset protects you from frustration and keeps you moving forward, even when progress feels slow. It is also helpful to celebrate your effort, not just your results. If you spoke today, you succeeded, because speaking is the action that creates improvement. If you practiced even when you did not feel motivated, you achieved something important, because you strengthened your habit. These are victories that deserve recognition, because they show that you are committed to your growth. Sometimes you may compare yourself with others, and this comparison can make your progress feel smaller than it really is. You may see someone speaking more fluently and feel that you are not good enough, but this comparison is not helpful, because every learner has a different journey. Your focus should not be on how fast someone else is moving, but on how consistently you are improving. Your progress is personal, and it depends on your actions, not on someone else's results. As you continue to notice your small wins, you will begin to build a stronger belief in yourself. This belief does not come from motivation alone, it comes from evidence. Each time you see that you are improving, even in a small way, you collect proof that you can do this. This proof becomes the foundation of your confidence, and it helps you face challenges with a calmer and more positive mindset. There will still be days when you feel that nothing is changing, and that is a normal part of learning. Progress is not always visible every day, but that does not mean it is not happening. Sometimes your brain is working quietly, organizing what you have learned and preparing you for the next level. If you continue your practice, the results will appear, even if they are not immediate. Over time, these small wins begin to connect and create something bigger. The sentence you speak today becomes easier tomorrow. The confidence you feel today becomes stronger next week, and the habit you build today becomes part of who you are. This is how transformation happens, not through one big moment, but through many small moments that you choose again and again. You are already on this path, even if you do not always feel it. Every time you speak, every time you try, and every time you continue despite difficulty, you are creating progress. You do not need to be perfect, and you do not need to move fast, because what matters is that you keep moving. So take a moment to recognize what you have already done, and allow yourself to feel proud of your effort. You are not the same person you were when you started, because you have taken steps, and those steps are leading you forward. Keep going, keep noticing your growth, and keep building your confidence one small win at a time. Now tell me, will you ignore your progress and feel stuck, or will you start seeing your small wins and realize how far you are already moving? Chapter 8. Your New Voice. Something begins to change inside you long before the world notices it. And that change is quiet, steady, and deeply personal. Because it is not only about learning a language. It is about discovering a voice that you once believed was out of your reach. At the beginning, Speaking English may have felt like a distant goal, something that belonged to confident people, something that seemed possible for others but not for you. Yet through small actions, through daily effort, and through moments where you chose to speak instead of staying silent, you have started to build something real, something that is now becoming part of who you are. Your voice in English is no longer an idea, and it is no longer something you are waiting for, because it is already forming inside you. You may not feel perfect, and you may still make mistakes, but you are no longer the person who avoids speaking completely. You have stepped out of that silence, and that step, even if it felt small at the time, has created a powerful shift in your journey. When you look back, you can see that you are not where you started because you have moved forward, and that movement is the beginning of your transformation. There is a moment when you realize that speaking English is not about remembering every rule or using perfect grammar, but about expressing your thoughts, your feelings, and your ideas in a way that feels natural to you. This realization changes everything because it removes the pressure of perfection and replaces it with the freedom of communication. You begin to trust your ability, even if it is still growing, and that trust allows your voice to come out more easily, more confidently, and more consistently. Your new voice is not loud because it is perfect. It is strong because it is real. It carries your effort, your practice, and your persistence, and it reflects the journey you have taken. Every sentence you speak is a result of the choices you made, the days you showed up, and the moments when you decided to try again, even when it felt difficult. This voice is yours, and it is something you have built step by step with patience and courage. You may still feel moments of doubt, and that is completely natural because growth does not remove every challenge. It changes how you respond to it. When doubt appears, you no longer stop completely because you have learned to continue. Even when you are not sure, this ability to continue is what makes your voice stronger because it shows that you are not controlled by fear anymore. You are guided by action, and that action keeps moving you forward. As your confidence grows, you will notice that speaking English begins to feel different. It no longer feels like a task that you must complete. It feels like a part of your daily life. You begin to think in English more naturally. You express yourself with less hesitation, and you start to enjoy the process of speaking. This enjoyment is very important because it turns learning into something you want to do, not something you feel forced to do. There is also a deeper transformation that happens, one that goes beyond language. When you find your voice in English, you also find a new level of confidence in yourself. You realize that you are capable of learning, improving, and overcoming challenges. And this realization does not stay only in your English journey. It spreads into other areas of your life. You begin to believe in your ability to grow, and that belief becomes a powerful force that supports you in everything you do. Your journey does not end here, because learning is a continuous process, and there will always be new things to discover and improve. However, the difference now is that you are not starting from zero anymore. You have a foundation, you have a habit, and you have a voice that you can rely on. This foundation makes every future step easier because you are building on something strong, something that you created with your own effort. It is important to remember that your voice does not need to be like anyone else's voice. You do not need to sound like a native speaker, and you do not need to compare yourself with others. Because your goal is not to copy someone else. Your goal is to express yourself clearly and confidently. Your voice is unique, and that uniqueness is something you should embrace, not hide. When you accept your voice, you allow it to grow naturally, without unnecessary pressure. As you continue to speak, you will create more moments where you feel proud, more moments where you feel confident, and more moments where you realize that you can do things that once felt impossible. These moments are not accidents. They are the result of your consistency and your courage. You earned them, and you will continue to earn more as you keep going. Take a moment now to imagine yourself in the future, speaking English with ease, expressing your ideas without fear, and feeling comfortable in conversations. This is not a dream that is far away. It is a reality that you are already building. Every sentence you speak today brings you closer to that version of yourself, and the more you continue, the more real it becomes. You started with silence, and now you are moving toward expression. You started with fear, and now you are building confidence. You started with doubt, and now you are creating belief. This journey is not easy, but it is worth it, because it changes not only how you speak, but how you see yourself. So when you wake up tomorrow, and when you begin your day, remember that you are no longer the same person who was afraid to speak. You are someone who has taken action, someone who has practiced, and someone who has started to find their voice. That voice is growing, and it will continue to grow as long as you keep using it. Now, the question is not whether you can speak English, because you already can. The real question is whether you will continue to use your voice and make it stronger every single day. And deep inside, you already know the answer. You did not just watch this video. You took a step that many people are too afraid to take. And that step can change your English if you stay consistent. Now, the real question is not what you learned, but what you will do tomorrow morning when you wake up. Start small, stay consistent, and trust yourself. Your voice is waiting for you. Thanks for watching this video. I will see you soon in the next video.